Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. And I have a really pretty project for you today. This is another one of those stamps I could hardly wait to get my hands on. It's called Beautifully Braided, and it has these gorgeous ginkgo leaves on it. And I am thrilled with the way this one came out. So I thought I would share it with you. I'm so glad you could join me this afternoon. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and if you push the little notification bell, then you get notified every time I put up a video, which is these days, Tuesdays and Fridays. So let's just get started. This is my project for the day. Isn't that just gorgeous? I'm going to move that around in the light so you can see that we've embossed the gold strip as well as the card itself. And it occurs to me the other day when I did my paper pumpkin alternatives, I forgot to do my giveaway. So I'm doing it now. I have 2 paper pumpkin boxes that I'm planning to give away, and if you comment on this card and share the video, within the next 2 days I will pick a couple people and send 2 of the paper pumpkin to the winner. Okay, so back to the project for today. I just love ginkgo flowers. They look Art Deco to me. And then this stamp set, which is this, called Beautifully Braided, has these ginkgo flowers, or I guess they're leaves, because the flower is actually this little berry kind of thing, and it actually grows in real life out to multiple berries and kind of a whole string of them, and I think that's actually the flower. But they're absolutely stunningly beautiful, and when I saw this set, I put it on my wish list and got it as soon as I could. So I'm using the ginkgo flower, or the leaves here, and I'm using this piece that fills in, and I'm using this thank you to make this card. Isn't that just pretty? So what you need to make this card, it's really very simple. I have a base of Granny Apple Green, which is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then I have a piece of soft suede that is 4 by 5 1/4 that's going to layer on here. Then my white piece is 3 3/4 by 5. Then there is a white panel 4 by 5 1/4 that goes on the inside, and on the inside of this card I have just a simple sponging and then more of that beautiful embossed leaf. So where we're going to do most of our work is right on these 2 pieces here, and I've got my ginkgo flower mounted, and I've put it on. It's actually quite a large stamp, and I've got mine loaded on my F block here so that I can place this down here and then again down here, so I can get plenty of flowers and leaves on here. So for this we need the Pierce mat. I'm going to get some scratch paper out here as well. So here is some scratch paper that I'm going to put under what I'm stamping. And I'm using Granny Apple Green, and then I'm using soft sea foam, and the complementary color I'm using is Pineapple Punch. So the very first thing we'll need is the Granny Apple Green, and we need to ink up our ginkgo leaves. I tried doing this several different ways and finally decided that direct stamping is probably the best, but since I'm not using my Stamparatus, I'm going to clean up those edges. Okay, now I know that I want this set, this first image, right here, almost upright on my card. So I'm going to set that into place. Now this is a very large stamp, and so you need to apply pressure, making sure that you get all of the places along the edge of the stamp and in the center to make sure we get a good image. And all right, let's see how we did here. There we go. I've got a great image. All right, now I'm going to ink this up again, the top particularly, because I'm going to put some additional leaves down here at the bottom. I think you can see where I did that. And again, I'm going to put this in place just right down here to fill up this panel a bit. And no two will come out exactly the same depending on how you stamp and where you put your stamp down. But again, I'm going to make sure that I get plenty of pressure on this so we get a nice solid impression. And again, let's see how I did. Great. Okay, now I'm going to clean up this stamp because we're going to go back over it using Versamark. So next we're going to do our stamping with the soft seafoam here. I have that little filler stamp filled, mounted here, and I'm going to get some of that soft seafoam, and I'm just going to fill in those leaves just a little bit. And does this exactly fit each of the leaves? No. So some of them are going to be a little bit shy of ink, and you can go back in and you can add some where you don't get as much as you'd like to have, and some of it is going to go off the edges. And you know, I was fine with all of that because it's kind of a little not believable anyway. And I'm going to add some of that green in here on these, and let's see, on this one, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Okay, so then I took my water brush and I used my water brush to move around a little bit of that ink in the ginkgo flower. And if you want yours to come out and not show any misses, then what you might do is use your water brush instead of the filler stamp, because that will move the ink around and it'll move the granny apple around. And I even got some of the branches here and the stems and got a little bit of ink on those as well, and just filled in a little bit here. Now that's going to make the card itself, and by the way, the little berries are the same color as the leaves in real life, if not a little bit yellower. So there we go. All right, now what I'm going to do, because I'm going to do some Versamark stamping and using gold embossing powder, at each step I want this card to be completely dry. So I'm going to quiet the video and I'm going to use my heat gun and dry the use of that water pen that we just did to make sure this is completely dry before I try to put down my next layer. That's good and dry. So the next step that I have is I'm going to use my pineapple punch, and I'm going to use one of my blending brushes, and that's just got a little bit of yellow on it. And so I'm going to take off just the topmost piece of that, and I'm just going to add a little yellow halo around these leaves. And using a blending brush, you can certainly use a dauber and you can use your sponges, but you really want to use an extremely light touch when you do this, and that's why I elected to use blending brushes on this one to get that really light halo around my ginkgo leaves. And I just want a little bit of yellow almost over the whole thing. So even down in these corners, just ever so slight a dusting so that it almost looks like it's on vanilla paper, except vanilla paper is got a bit more brown in it. So that is, oh, as long as I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and add my yellow halo on my inside piece where I'm going to do some embossing. And again, just right down here in this corner, and that's plenty. Okay, now, because the ink is spread kind of all over the card, and like I said, in order to get the best results for your embossing, this needs to be completely dry. I'm going to use my heat tool again. Okay, that feels completely dry to me. All right, next I'm going to use my Embossing Buddy on the front of both of these cards. And I always, somebody asked me the other day about why I put the Embossing Buddy sort of all over the card, even if I'm going to just do some embossing down here. Well, part of that has to do with embossing powder are often quite fine, and they're not very, they're a little unruly in that sometimes you put them down and you think you're only putting them down in the spot that you're doing, and guess what? You get some stray particles up in another place, and then you end up with a few little gold dots in places you really didn't plan on having any. So that's why I kind of have a tendency to cover the whole card. Okay, so next we're going to use our Versamark and cover the stamp. And on this one, I'm going to set this Versamark down more straight up and down on this card because I want the ginkgo leaves in slightly different place than when I stamped. I think it really adds to the, I don't know, the decoration or the stylized look in the card. Okay, and again, big stamp, so lots of pressure kind of everywhere, and then remove that, and hopefully I've got images right where I want them. Now I'm going to ink this up again, and I am going to put this ginkgo leaf, I've got to see where that is, right in here. Okay. All right. Lastly, we're going to put another layer of this Versamark ink, and then that should be it. And that's going to go right down here in the corner, maybe like that, so that I get most of 3 of the leaves and a little piece of this one down here. I love the Art Deco look that this stamp has to it. It's just gorgeous. Okay, and if you're sending cards to younger people, they seem to really be enamored with the Art Deco look. So there we go. All right, now I have my gold embossing powder. Well, I'm just going to slide this through the embossing powder then. So I'm just going to wipe away any embossing powder from other places on the card here. And I'll quiet my heat tool here while I heat this part up. Okay, so there is the inside of my card done. And all right, now I'm going to do the front of my card next. The same way, I'm going to dip it in the embossing powder and just work that down the page since I can't find my spoon. Okay, I got a little too much off there. Okay, so there I have my powder on there, and I've got my brush here. So I'm going to just work away any excess powder that I see on my card. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set this part as well. Well, I missed a little spot in here, but we are going to put this piece down here, so maybe I can manipulate where that goes to give me a little bit of a coverage of that. Now, I didn't do this piece yet, and this is very interesting. I decided to Versamark the gold powder on the gold paper just to see what it looked like, and I loved it. So I'm putting Versamark on my piece of gold paper, and I'm going to put my Versamark back on my stamp and stamp this piece of gold paper literally from the top to the bottom. And I can see where my Versamark is hitting there. And so I'm just going to keep coming down the page. And one more time right on the edge. Well, let's see, if I want to do that, then I need to have, well, I'll just ink up the whole thing. That way I can put it wherever I want. I think if I put this right along here, I'm going to get what I want. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to bring back in my gold powder and get powder on my piece of gold cardstock here. And there we go. I think I got the whole thing. All right. So now one more time with the heat tool. And the paper's going to warp a little bit, but I think that's okay because we'll just straighten it back out again. Okay, it didn't work badly at all. My first one was crazy, but this one looks fine. So just let that cool off for a second. All right, so now we are just about ready to assemble this. And there's nothing raised on, oh, I have one more bit of stamping and embossing to do. I keep forgetting this. All right, so one more thing, and that is my sentiment. And I decided to make this a very simple thank you card. So I'm going to bring back my Embossing Buddy and put that right here. And I'm going to emboss in gold my thank you just right across this corner over the image, right down here. And get that with a little bit of embossing powder on it, and one more time with the heat gun. And in both cases I was off just a little bit on straight. Oh well. Let's see. This piece is mounted. Well, first of all, this piece, isn't that gorgeous? Oh my gosh. I think I'm ready to do a very giant piece of this gold on gold with this stamp, and I'm going to figure out a way to make a card with that. It's just so pretty. And so right down here, so I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of my gold paper and put this into place along this edge. You know, and even though I missed that spot, I think it looks better if it's tucked a little further over this way. Okay, so there we go. Let's see if that's straight. It's very close. Okay, that looks straight to me. And then I can trim off this edge because I generally cut these pieces a little bit longer so that I can have a perfect fit on my card front. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mount this piece on the soft suede. And put a similar margin all the way around. And then mount this piece to the front of my card. And I thought it just needed a little definition. Because when I put this on the Granny Apple Green first without anything behind it, it didn't look good. So it just needed a little something contrasting. It's amazing what contrast can do for your card. There to go ahead and set that in place. Isn't that pretty? Oh my gosh. Okay. Now this piece, we just need to add some snail to the back of the card. And get this put in place. So there we go. And isn't that just gorgeous? So there we go. There's the one that I made previously. And that is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. The join offer right now is spectacular, and it will be in place through the end of March. So there's our project for the day. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh my gosh, I just think it's so pretty. Let's see. My prize draw for the month in January is a bundle of your choice out of the new catalog. The 2020 mini catalog, the January to June mini catalog. And then I'm going to also, for those of you that comment and share this video, I have 2 paper pumpkins for the Valentines that I will pick a winner in the next couple of days, because that one's time sensitive and we've got to get it to people in order for them to be able to use it. And so that'll be a giveaway on this video. And to get yourself in my drawing for the month end, all you have to do is put an order on my site, lbedinger.stampinup.net, or you can do it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. So that's it for me today. Thanks again so much for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more tips, and more projects. Bye!